Before we get started, I'll need to order. So your proposal. Trustee Rissy. Here. Trustee Marco.
Years.
Supervisor Weston. Here. Trustee Marco. Here. Good morning.
Present.
Is there a motion or discussion to approval of tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Or anyone here wishing to make any public comments?
Yeah.
Oh, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Any public comment on tonight's agenda? Item? With that, I'll turn it over to you, Dave, and one, and get to walk us through.
Okay, I'll kind of kick things off with a question on the end of the lineup. This is a little bit different than we've done in years past. Tonight's discussion in regard to driving the budget and the development of it. From more of a global perspective, with a lot of assumptions that Warren's been working with. And it's also the opportunity for us to present where we're at with the budget so far, and then to gain any sort of knowledge from the board in regard to wants, wishes, changes. Based upon current year's budget, got a chance to look at that. The next year is not looking too different. But this is the opportunity for us to discuss as a group. The department heads are all here, and I think I'm being here. If there's any questions or concerns or suggestions, this is my belief. A lot of belief in talking to the team. When I say team, the elected body, the administrative body, this is a great opportunity for us to all get together and have this discussion after everyone leads us through the memo that was sent out along with the PowerPoint. I apologize if the PowerPoint is not online. We don't have that technology here. Hopefully we will. But tonight we're going to go through both sides with paper. So if there's any initial questions, I can field those. If not, we'll this is on, yes. Yep. Yes. Just,
Okay. Okay, mic check. Can everybody hear me? Here. We have two documents to discuss tonight, and I am open if the board has any preference on which one we start. I'll tell you what, speaking up, let's start with the serious wordy one, because maybe you'll be less likely to fall asleep after dinner. A budget is a plan. A budget, if you look in BS&A, is a whole lot of numbers. The budget letter tells a narrative of really what's going on and what the board and the residents are going to get for their tax dollars next year. Okay. So the first page, we talked about, we have capital improvements. We're always looking for operational efficiency, employee development. 60% of the budget dollars in the three funds that typically maintain employees: general fund, fire fund, and the building inspection fund. 60% of those dollars are staff. That's we need to invest in folks, and Katie is doing an awesome job with the great training so far. So, yeah, as Jade mentioned, this is a work session. Please start yelling out questions or stop and say, hey, I don't understand, or move on me, you're boring us. If you flip to page 2, the top of the page has a comparison from the original 2025 budget to what numbers are looking like at the moment. We have revenues up top, expenditures down below. If you look in the middle of the chart, we have a total budgeted revenue for the 2026 request at $7.6 million. If you look on the last line of that chart, our expenditures for next year at the moment is 7.45. So we are not in balance, revenues versus expenditures, and we actually have a surplus. So we did that one. Balancing the budget down to the penny is one of the last things you do. And if we came in here tonight and presented a fully balanced budget and said, okay, board, now what do you want to do? We would have to start shuffling to wedge in board requests and board priorities, and that's the wrong way. We need to triple the board. So there are some dollars for board directors. This letter goes through line by line, an analysis of the changes from, last year. If I mentioned last year, many times I'm talking 2025, which is non-budget vote, so, stop and ask if I lose you on years.
Question on your chart. And once on your revenue, you show a decline in the category. Is that just trying to be conservative based on the climate outside, or is there a particular reason for it?
Sure.
I'm just trying to get an idea of how you
Yep, I appreciate that question, and can I address them as we go through the category?
Yeah.
And you'll see. Okay. The first line of our revenues are property taxes. This is a large driver of the budget. $3,086,000 of the $7.6 million budget. So that's a good chunk. Revenue levels are governed pretty much by three large factors. We have new construction, we have an inflationary increase, and that's about 5.52%. So in April, I believe the assessor will present the full taxable value for the township. This comes from L 4029. And so this is where we grab our values. Our taxable value is just over $2.3 billion.
It's the highest taxable value of any township in the county, right? But not really. Again, that means percent property
Township.
or township. The cities. And 60% of that is industrial.
So that 6.2% increase we're seeing on the dollars are driven by 5.5% of it is from a proposal made and just normal inflation and new construction. We already have millage rates set as a maximum. And property tax administration fees. You're probably that. And that covers all of the township, it's meant to cover the township expenses of assessing property, defending that assessment through tax tribunals and Michigan tax tribunals, right? And I'm losing track here. And of course, the treasurer's operation. Once the assessor has created the valuation, extended that, the role is turned over to the treasurer side, who then prints the tax bills, mails them out, collects the dollars, and distributes about 90% of the amount collected to other units. By state law, we are not allowed to charge those other units for our services. So we collect hours within the school district for Kent County, all kinds of their villages, for 3 different school districts, Kent District Library, so on. And state law says, well, you can't charge Kent County for collecting taxes for them, but you are allowed to add the 1% property tax administration fee on the tax bill. So we do collect that, and it's about $880,000. And it's over 25.25% of our tax category. is collecting this fee cap to cover our expenditures. Big numbers. We have that category. We have the licenses and permits category. Sure. Please. That's very good.
I think that across the state, it's normal, how much is 1%.
Absolutely.
Tax, that'll be more than they collect this 1% as well. It truly is something that they need to do to collect all of the merchants versus the entities.
Absolutely.
So this isn't an odd thing, like, we're doing something different, just so that everybody's clear. And so on the property tax bill, the resident just doesn't get a question about that. 1% administration fees that are we get, right? So that's the next thing. January, we talked about the ghost letter having an explainer tax bill limit. I think about the point, and then we'll also talk about where your tax money goes, so that people also understand you're not keeping the majority of dollars that you. That's very good.
Big taxes, I mean, 6 different styles. They all have.
1%, that's great, thanks, yeah, but I have to. But. They all have explained.
And for future years, I'll make sure you, I know what, this is a normal. We have licenses and permits, this is our first decrease category. And this is where we look, managers look line by line and ask, well, this revenue, what do we think is going to be, what are our collections going to look like? In this category, we have the cable TV franchise fees. And you've heard for years now, folks are like, I'll come to court, folks are grabbing cable, go to Hulu or streaming. The township awards franchises, cable TV franchises, and the township is able to collect franchise fees. Part of that fee is passed on to the public access television to support their operations. Because last folks had cable, but now they're filling down. So there's your decrease.
Do we need to give it a requirement or statutory?
I believe so. I don't have the citation in front of me, but,
I mean, it's just, you would have to.
yes. I have not been through a renewal and this township, I can't tell you anything.
That conversation. We heard some of
The next category is state and federal grants. And that is remaining flat from this year to next. This is mostly, as it's spelled out, LCSA, Local Community Stabilization Act. That used to be personal property tax dollars that we collected locally. And about 10 years ago, the state did the system. So now property owners, business owners, industry sends tax dollars to the state. And they jumble up in a big bag and distribute it. So the dollars we receive from the state may not match the valuation of the properties in our township. When we talk about a conservative budget, when we talk about revenue, that means yes low. When we talk about a conservative budget later on expenditures, that means yes high.
So guess what means what, X lower, don't be conservative, what, property that is fully.
The LCSA, the dollars from the state,
Oh,
I have never seen those dollars decrease. I have seen them increase. And there's no way that we as a single municipality could really forecast that increase. So it's safer just to keep it flat. No crossing your fingers that we will receive at least a little.
10 years ago, I reformed personal property tax. The LCSA is actually put used to, was told it's actually just going to go away. And it was actually like decrease every year, and I think when at that point, we've done a budget 5 years out, probably completely out of budget. It's still very active today, and it's so clearly that thought process is changed, although it's, I think it's still good accounting, so to be conservative, not kind of correct.
Okay, I just don't want to get too down the road, but, to highlight how far away the LCSA has drifted from the concept of personal property tax collection. 4 years ago, the state said, no, we are not going to wait to see what we collect, distribute it. We are going to put in legislation that we are defining the kind of money that they're going to hand out to everybody for the next 15 years. So I can point, it takes me a couple of minutes, but I can point to a law that says, look at these billions of dollars that are going to be distributed. No idea how much is ours. So thank the state for giving us a hint, but we're not really something. We'll say that. The next category is another decrease in the charges for services. This is really $2,000. And it's a little irritating that this is even its own category of charges for services. And if you read here the text, we had a line, PA 198, that Andrea would be interested, would be familiar with, because that's or would that be an assessing? Because that's an industrial exemption, that would be assessing. There's no reason for us to have a $2,000 budget when we've collected $1,000 over 2 years. Even if we get $1,000 in 2005, it's not going to make a difference to a $7.6 million budget. Just tidy up their line. Then we come to the awesome interest and rents line. Anybody knows what interest rates are going to do? Let us know. My crystal ball isn't that great, kind of crystal. Not that dirty. Not only interest rates, but how many dollars fund has. We have $1 million to invest in that fund right now. We have $100,000. A little challenging forecast going out. Also, something in the accounting world, there's a rule called mark to market. That if we have an investment and we held on to it for a couple of years, at the end of each fiscal year, we have to ask the question, if we converted this to cash, what would we get for it? Even though we're not planning, we're going to hold it to maturity. But we have to record if we would gain or lose money, even though we're not going to do either. And that would show something very often that will show an investment loss. So I could forecast, we could be perfectly forecast on how much interest we're going to make off our investments, but there's no way to tell until you read the Wall Street Journal and the certain chart. What we have to do to market. So that's my this category though, interest and rents, houses the rental income from parks. Looking down here, look at your crop, there it is. These are ball fields, these are pavilion rentals. It could be booth fees, if we have an event charge for booths. That number is increased. We have a budget of $6,000 this year. We can boost it 20 to 20,000 next year. We already know.
Put it in the new quick, but software reservation or from
Yeah, using the money is huge.
Well, the other thing too is, we never, let that feels except for fee.
So
So,
we didn't like we should if they were so bad.
part of it, or we just what? So they're all getting built,
But a lot of that,
Probably be good charge.
but along your point there, a lot of that had to do with, I mean, the fuel's just, we're not their cheap, so it's hard to charge them it.
Well, it'd be good if it's good.
To mention this category also, receives our dam lease payments. The township owns the dam. We received about $8,000 from the operator. All of the dollars are to the general fund as revenue. And then the general fund, you will see an expenditure for transfer out. We have a separate dam maintenance fund. We started talking aside dollars in case we have any kind of failures. We have dollars and it doesn't, we're not accumulating those dollars in the general fund.
Failure is scary for every week. So you need to make it.
It would be really good. We also received dollars from cell phone. Yeah. And then we have the great catch-all of other revenue. And this is the cost allocation. This is a method that government uses to recognize that administrative departments, mostly in the general fund, thinking treasurer's department, manager's department, serves and main HR. We provide service to the whole township. And the general fund pays for that service. But we charge other funds. And we do that based on their usage. The building fund building inspection fund, Ryan, has staff. Katie, through HR, in the general fund, issues paychecks, keeps track of those staff, benefit enrollment, does all the paperwork. We will charge a portion of Katie's time and her whole department to the building inspection fund. That's the revenue collected. And it's just a great way to make sure that in the building inspection fund that we're really capturing how much it costs for them to run. If Brian's fund, if Brian's fund was a standalone company, he would have to have a treasurer. He would have to have an IT department. He would need a board. So all of those, he would need finance. So our costs are allocated back. This is a long-standing concept in government. Jay implemented the program. And over that was for 2024. I came in and boy, there was a quick turnaround on budget. Jay improved that he got here. I came in early 25. Worked just as hard to get 24, get my years here. Worked hard to get a 2025 budget. And then after working, you may have to do a little accounting tweaks to it. All the accounts that are still there, you can see it here on. We just moved that. But this cost allocation plan is really helping out.
Jay, you don't remember what it was before for 2024, do you? Or you can?
It was zero.
Oh,
It was zero. We had none.
Well, you got a straight percentage.
Oh, there was.
So that was.
The building, sorry if I could jump in, the building department
Did you a straight percentage?
of utility, two different things. For the building department inspection fund is in Township Hall. So if we receive a utility bill, we do a split.
So
I
it's
think what you're referring to, 20%.
The 20%, that's a separate concept.
Yeah, that's what happened.
We
We
have-
still do that
We do.
20%. So. For the two people listening at home, look at your paperwork, that other revenue was pretty amazing.
And we have transferring category to zero. 25 and 26, no change. And if we look, are we doing okay on time and then? Very much in
I
line.
think you're good for the presentation.
Okay, we should go, okay.
If I have a question, you'll wait for us now.
It's now,
Does the cell tower behind Station Two generate some sort of income, or was that a perpetual easement? So, because I noticed you mentioned cell tower behind the fire station one, but I don't see any referencing income for the other cell tower.
was it old fires, that
It's
could,
always been behind Station Two, but I don't know if it's like
that-
one time they sold, or if there's a monthly.
where there are,
But I remember, I know when they checked. So I'll check and see.
there's a repetitive.
So would that be included in these numbers, and just definition of sentence, or is it the other way around?
No, it's included.
Okay.
It's, yeah, it's about 150,000.
But those numbers are already here.
Yes.
Some convention. I just looked, I didn't know, like, maybe they had special easement like one time, like it was a bill for it, but it's all that one time. Okay.
And actually cell towers to, ring us up time to time and try to buy out.
Sure, I'm sure that.
We don't, and I'm sure Jason, that we don't.
I get it.
Yeah, we don't. Okay, expenditures, very quickly, we will have a new department, we're proposing a new department, but no new costs. It's a different gathering, and this is an information technology department. Right now, most IT, all IT is handled, Brian, through Brian. And they get into 3 different funds to pay bills, and that can be a little awkward. Spending the fire budget. Also, it can be a little awkward to coordinate. And we're proposing a centralized IT department. You can really see the full cost. There's one spot. These dollars then can be allocated out. Right now, if we pay an IT bill, a consultant, it's split between general fund, fire fund, and building inspection fund, and that's it. Other funds receive benefit from that. So if we gather it in one IT department, we can allocate those costs with the cost allocation plan. And it's, if we grow, either in population or just business, having a single department would be easier to recognize that we need staff, more consultative, easier to manage. Include Perry that.
No,
No.
so this is just, it's just setting aside new department for accounting purposes,
Oh, I see.
so that we can track those expenses. And then also, if we want to make the jump to hire somebody, we're not recreating department to justify a hire. I'll kind of relate it back to how I choose to run the parks department or parks budget, but a parks director was hired and then the budget was created. This is gonna kind of create the budget that drives justification. If needed, and then I don't believe at this point, Katie and Brian had a lot of conversation, the 3 of us have. We just don't have the capacity for that, and it's working right now with the consultants, so I3, it's working the way that it is, but if we did grow, this could help just.
We're just basically putting up. We're gathering costs in one spot, so they can be identified instead of being chopped and, you can't measure it easily. The personnel category is going down 1.5%. That is pretty uncommon, and that's the main reason is we are 3.5 full-time employees down, because the change from assessing. We have in the budget already, it's a little bit for personnel. It's almost a zero-based budget approach because we look at each position and build costs from the ground up. We look at what folks are making now, what their anniversary date is for next step, We have an across the board or cost of living increase built in. We also have, we started last year, I believe, an updated method of, putting in health insurance costs. And again, we're in expenditures, so the way of doing it now is a conservative way, which is a high dollar. Folks, healthcare costs, if vary if you're single family plan. Right now, we have a budget built that every staff, we assume is family. So that if we do have a single staff member and we're paying single, and they either get married and have a family, or they move on and hire somebody as a family plan, we don't panic that we don't have budget to cover the new benefits.
So just for the budget that way. So we still stay there, pay exactly what it is, but just make sure that the budget is allocated now. So that we get through the year. And if there was something extra, that,
It falls back into fund balance.
I'm sorry,
Fund balance.
is self-insurance at all? We look at self-insuring, the health plans for the urgent, and maybe like, you know, I've done that before, depending on how sick or not sick, right?
Yeah, right now, we are with West Michigan Health Insurance Pool.
Yeah.
So, we kind of, if you look at kind of like self-insured plans
Sure.
through the pool.
Yeah.
So we get, I think, a pretty good rate compared to what the industry standard is. So, hey, we're not gonna go down to the plans to get, we're at too minimal increase compared.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like, I've had some experience, so. I'm sure too, I think Cascade is right at the cusp of what we may or may not have the right amount of numbers to spread that this over. And actually looking at some of, without getting into it, but looking at some of the health of some of the employees, what they've come after years, we probably would have that as. But that's the guy, if we were a bigger organization, for sure, makes sense.
Yeah, I think that 3 years, the difference in the amount of gotten as a township pool compared to other industries is amazing. What other industries is based on the cost of healthcare the last years. It's been, I know I questioned you 50 times, like 3 years ago, I'm like, you better not be right, it can't be right. This industry-wise, the numbers are going up so high. We were really good.
I would liken, our relationship to West Michigan, the pool, and, the pool is self-insured. The pool tells us our premiums. So we pay a premium, so I can't say that we are, the pool itself is self-insured. We're kind of a hybrid or pass-through. It's worked very well. Okay,
Thank you.
good. Last in, to the personnel is we have a defined benefit pension plan for our, legacy staff. We have, I believe, six folks still in this plan. MERS is a Michigan, that they cover all Michigan municipalities pretty much. We have a UAL, unfunded accrued liability, which means that prior boards had made promises. And we used to, when folks retired and received benefits, we would just pay as you go. The day somebody says they're getting benefit, we would shovel money out. About 15 years ago, the world industry figured out, yeah, that's not the best plan. You really should have dollars to back up this promise. Right now, we are about $5.6 million in arrears on that promise. MERS is catching up. Annually, we're gonna pay big dollars throughout the 15 years. 4 years ago, we were in the about $250,000 range between the three funds that have staff. Next year, we're at 518,000. And if our investments don't go well, don't make money, MERS will look to us for more dollars. And the longer that we don't give MERS dollars, they say, you know what, if you get money here, you'd be earning, we assume you would earn 6.93%, around the set. So we have to pay that interest, that student interest. So even though our MERS liability isn't called debt, it really is, and it's our price. Numbers are going up. It will be wonderful in 2041 if everybody wants to stick around till then. Okay, supplies, sorry, I'm jumping in. Supplies is relatively flat. $2,300 increase. We'll move on. Other services and charges is about a $3 million category. This category was $2.5 million this year, so it's going up about 20%. This category houses the Kent County Roads program that we have a 50/50 cost share. That number this year was a $500,000 budget. Through the CIP, we boosted it 50,000. So 50,000 of that category increase is because of the roads. We also, this is where the assessing contract is housed. And again, thinking conservatively, money is in the budget to cover the contract. But because we're just implementing, we're gonna get into, gee, do we need to pay for the software maintenance? Or does our assessing provider or contractor have that same software? Do we have to pay to print these items? It's kind of very, I don't want to say minor, because it can be dollars. But there's my mind, saying that there could be some questions, so we just left it a little, make sure we don't run short. Let's see, this is where the IT department dollars are in. We have about $200,000 in new IT department. Again, that's not new spending. It's just part of it was in fire, part of it was Brian's area, part of it was spread out in the general fund. There's something to validate, see it better. And we have the spring and fall cleanup program. The budget is doubling from this year to next year. We have a $65,000 this year budget. I'm proposing. We're proposing to.
Just to clarify that, it's not that it's going to double, it already has.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah.
2024, the cost went through the roof. There was a lot of storms that came through. We dumpsters in collection site at train station 2, and then that the curbside pickup increased that year as well. And asks it gone up at least a year. So this isn't. This is actually just reflecting real numbers. So that's the truck cost.
Have we ever changed? Have we ever changed the price of it? We saw some tags since, right? Seniors get a reserve product for free, and others you pay actual bags that go outside of the road.
We still do that. We got. We don't.
Seniors got free, and we got paid like $1 a bag or something.
So should we be doing that?
So that's a really loaded question because it's a service that the residents come to expect and there's alternatives. Yeah, with some of the communities or some of the neighbors that we have to have sidewalks, right of ways. You could always go with a curbside program where they come through and they suck up the leaves. That would be very, very expensive. I managed 2 of those programs. One city got rid of it, realized hundreds of thousands of dollars savings. So, although this program was new to me when I got here, like, how does this work? I think it works for Cascade. And I think residents have come to expect it, and if we changed it, it would get changed.
And you don't charge the, you don't even pay like $1 back.
Since I've been here, we haven't charged.
We used to.
Not
And then go extract people option called what right before it, that's when that.
Yeah, since I've been here.
Oh, because of COVID, they couldn't come in and buy that.
Maybe that should be.
Oh,
the bag-
No, go ahead.
The bags are only available, the bag program, the tag, are only available to residents in a certain area of the township that can't burn because of.
What is that, the last of butter?
Yeah, just the pocket, it's stage two areas, pretty rural. It matches the hunting restriction area, same, trying, but I'm thinking. Right, it isn't.
Yeah.
But I know
Okay, you can do. It won't really.
the cost of that service is, I'm assuming, it's gone up drastically in that.
So what was that, what was down at the last board meeting complaining about? Complaining about dumpster, because you have to walk up steps, you have all of your stuff out of your vehicle, and walk up some steps, not all big dumpsters are, dump your own stuff in. That's why I said to him, get the tags, I wrote, great. I personally think the tag program is nice in the sense that we know it's Cascade residents using it, and we know it's within the non-burn area. Truly, the dumpsters, because I've seen it post on social media where people are like, where can I dump my stuff? Kentwood has a bunch of dumpsters behind the library, go dump it there. You know, they're doing that here too. So, I mean, we have the dumpsters, we pay for the dumpsters, it is a great service. I personally use it every spring and fall, but with the tags, you do have to make sure you are a resident within the non-burn. So your mind.
That's up the curbside, all those food and I ended up in the spring and fall, we got it. That's awesome.
Which that includes like stuff.
Yeah.
Which is nice, and like people are hazardous. All items that you.
I was, some trees that have.
We check ID. So,
Yes, you do.
I just
Yeah.
dealt with lying down.
Yeah.
So you know what's not in Cascade?
To the best of our ability.
That's fair.
And that's pretty common to do, that's what that.
Doing it to deter people from trying to do it.
Yeah.
That's the purpose.
And that's pretty common for those type of events to occur, you know, something that's sanitation. Or all that, don't have the. Not us.
Right.
That's.
But I kind of get advised that there isn't a desire to bring back the tag charge that for non-seniors that existed prior to COVID. To kind of offset some of the costs or.
I wish we had data to know, like, okay, did that really make an increase in our dumpster charge, or, you know, like, how that works?
Yeah.
But
Right.
I think the seniors deserve it. I think the no charge to them is many.
I don't
I
know
think
that.
it's weird though, because we can only get 115 free tags, but I know we get more.
And I think that has to do with the fees.
Right, so that's where we go back to that. I think that would be good too, where any resident, you get 10 free. If you're a senior, you can get as many as you want. But if you're not a senior, don't.
You want-
Yeah.
you want-
Yeah.
you want-
Just dump it at your car and to the fire station, cover yourself.
Right.
And
You
then
want
also,
30 tags, you're gonna pay for one.
right, and seniors or disabled residents.
Well, we found a little flaw with the system too in the past, and we basically changed this, because I think there was some unrealized loss that the township had that no one knew about. And that was we used a number of tags. So you would get a particular number and let's say, you give it to your address and we tell, the card goes through. They say 10 tags. We assume that we're gonna charge that. If that homeowner keeps those tags until next year, and then they bill us next year, we don't have any good record keeping prior to 2 years ago, that we weren't getting double bill. So we have changed that, and so now, you'll notice that now there's no brace system, and it's done. So that, like last year was orange.
Yeah.
This year, green. So, like, we were only going to pay on the green tag. It's hard to manage that, but if we had put some sort of.
That's good.
So that's why I thought we explained it in a couple.
Because if we gave our accountants to use everybody 1,000 tags, but they only picked up 500 bags, they were going off 1,000
They were
tags.
billing.
Well,
So we
and
changed that.
you might use my tags from last year, you might not give them my address this year, because I didn't register with you to pick up my stuff, so they're sitting forever.
But if they're out about.
And you see them, but I, that's.
Yeah, maybe that changed last fall.
Last year. Right after Dan got here.
Okay, that makes things a little.
But not because I think it's something better, the program just wasn't, it was hard at it. We worked with, because reception actually handled all of that. And so we worked with them as well to make sure that.
Basically, we were getting billed for tags.
They just
Right.
went out the door.
There's nobody that knew what was happening, we can adjust drawers though.
Yeah. I think-
So, almost seems like there ought to be a way to. When Apple picks them up. Based on the number of tags they pick up,
They are.
they are
It's
now.
not-
You don't know how many somebody got back in there.
You know, now we're being billed per bag, they track a lot of bags they pick up.
Right, but at least we know they can't overcharge us more than what we at least gave out.
Correct.
Yeah, even the old way, our township was spending, like, this budget did not, it wasn't allocated for. They were still spending all my budget, so. Not only are we fixing the budget, but we're fixing this process.
You guys, sorry, you guys did a great job to getting out like social media and newsletter, but people know the different tax last year, the spring, whatever, started, and so you did do a good job about communicating it out to the public.
The box, the cleanup days, does that change from year to year much, or is it pretty consistent? I mean, in theory, you think like, oh, we started these cleanup days years back, and you would think over time, everybody had less stuff to throw away, right? So the cost would come down, the life would get hurt, but like waiting forward on Saturday morning, it doesn't work now.
It's from Sam.
There are people that dispose of their stuff in dumpsters. I don't know, it's, the traffic comes slow, that's all done on touch. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that kind of.
And that just keeps going up.
But again, that's a service that residents really like.
Absolutely. I'm kidding.
Adding on, I'm gonna say, it's clean up cover,
I think usually the spring is bigger than fall, because people accumulate stuff in fall or a lot of it not spring. So.
But I think it's a service. That taxpayers are going to pay for.
Oh, it's great if you have to get rid of a big batch.
Exactly.
You can't carry that to the street.
My husband took them when I downtown Grand Rapids, he said, yeah. Gave it to some guy. Oh. I know. I'm watching on Find My Friends. So to try to keep moving, just put a bow on that, the budget is increasing, is doubling, 65,000 to 130,000 next year. In 2024, we spent 110,000 now. So the budget is not doubling because we expect our service to double, it's doubling to catch up with what we're spending now. So maybe we can move the way we got to this. This category is also where the $90,000 tree program is housed, very good maintained. We have capital outlay. Oh geez, what's that changing? That's changing 34%. It's going up a third. Really, the capital outlay, they are one time bulky. They are in the capital improvement plan. So whatever the board has said, yep, we want this. That's what that number is. So it's going to vary year to year. We have a small change and a transfer out. The general fund receives dollars for cemetery maintenance. The portion of that is directed to a perpetual care fund, and that's prescribed by state law. And then here's the $40,000 we transfer out to the dam major repair fund.
This year, does the lease amount coming in for the dam increase from last year, or is it the same? Whether-
We,
I think it does.
I think it does. So
I go back.
my question would be, does it make sense to increase, if that's the case, let's pretend for a minute that it jumps up, then there are times. Does it make sense to then increase the major repair fund? These payments are part of it or something like that?
I have never looked for the resolution or the board action that directs 40,000. My understanding is that we receive $80,000 a year from the operator. That number hasn't changed since I've been here.
Oh, wait,
It's
yeah.
the whole contract.
I think,
Yeah.
but I think it actually fixed them out for certain time, so the first 5 years it was this, then it bumped up, so I think it's a flat amount, if I recall. Yes, I think that's.
Anything, it seems like it goes down. I could be wrong, though. It doesn't change at certain points. But it seems like the major repair fund is based on, it was set at one time and then it increases based on CPI. I have to reference the document because anytime I talk, I gotta reference the document. I in my head.
I'd like to see that, we have a meeting on that about. And talk about that. And, yeah. What about?
Certainly all things like the answer. One of those. I think you said they got.
And I can tell you accounting wise, what I see is 80,000 coming into the general fund, 40 grand going out to the dam repair.
Initially, there was some deal where when it hit a certain dollar amount, the contributions would be smaller, and when it exceeded a certain dollar amount, it got larger. We wrote the lease plan. No, it's just gonna be the small home.
Well, it used to be too, if they generated a certain amount of power,
They
got more money, but that got moved and like.
Is it generating power?
It might have generated power at the end of June, but it's generating power, it's not much.
Not much less.
It's not enough that would justify paying that cost.
And then to wrap up the general fund, we have debt service, and that's where the fire station wants. Then we flip the page, page 5, the top of page 5. This is all of the rest of the township funds. So we have general fund and then we have everything else. If you look at our budgeted revenues versus expenditures, these are very out of balance. Much of that is to do with the planned capital outlay. We are clearly not in balance, and it is not an issue. These funds, they're designed to have an ebb and flow. Again, some of these special revenue funds do have property tax revenue. So I've got a couple bullet points on recent millage changes. We have a fire fund from last year, the new 1.37 mils, that's down a little bit heavily. The library fund was approved just last November at 0.15, that's down to 0.1493. And this, the taxes category also has the special assessment for the Laramie Lake and Cornell River districts. That's where these dollars are. In terms of licenses and permits, this is exclusively building inspection fund money. There are 2 units out of our 7 that are projected to go up based on known projects. And the other 5 units are staying level. And just those 2 townships, or Ada and East Grand Rapids, split at 8.7% category increase, about $230,000 increase. We flip the page, state and federal grants, that is going from $2.2 million to $200,000. That's a 91% decrease. Ooh. That's because we've spent our ARPA money. That's it. No more money. Good job. We spent it on time. We're supposed to, there you go, we said it, it's gone. So there's the grant involved. And charges for services, this line is flat. It's a two-line category, $5,000 for cemetery care and $200,000 for water and sewer hookup fees. The water and sewer hookup fees are quite variable. Either in 2024 or this year, we've actually collected about $600,000.
What is the department over on the outside? Pretty much
I
all.
have not traced that through, but it's big, a big development happened to make that number so high. Other than individual residences hook up, they do pay a fee that's $1,100 each. $1,100 for water, $1,100 for.
So what's the thing about like a industrial building that's going in, that's hooking up similar square footage to the park building? That's out of money residences, how do we, does anyone know how we?
We collect them when before they get their building permit. So there's an RED table that were approved years ago. It's kind of a complicated schedule. They send you some formulas, but we find a more similar one and try to put it.
And
It's
is
based on.
oh, sorry, is REU residential equivalent units? Okay, so we try to standardize.
And realistically, you're gonna end up with on that using it. Like,
But
a lot
they-
cheaper, they're more, so they think it residential needs 1,100, one industrial building, pay way more than that, right?
Yeah, it varies widely by use, like the car wash, maybe more.
Oh, God.
The size of the apartment units, and I'll get a little credit for that, but it's quite complicated, but it's supposed to equalize it.
Is it logical to assume that the large chunk of that fund last year had to do with all the home, moving version protected water use?
Anything. That was from.
Homeowners, the homeowners, the county still is paying off.
The airport, yeah.
Wait, so you think they actually paid, that was all.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, right. Go ahead. I'm like, he does now.
Yeah. The big commercial project, so the apartments, the airport project thing.
Airport project needs to be contribution in the neighborhood.
I was talking about the permanence of the issue.
Yeah,
They paid the water and sewer tax.
I didn't, sorry.
So, but they're talking about, so the, what did they do with they all had to tax water. Did we bill the fund of money that we're getting from the airport settlement or the IRS fund?
No.
I can't speak to that.
No, I can say we figured it, but I don't. That's a.
Yeah,
great-
you waiting for that?
What? What'd you say, Seth?
I'm asking why we would waive that. I mean, my thought was that
Well, I think there's a lot into that.
I think we need more.
I think this is part of a remediation process. And I think it would have been spelled out with the subject of agreement between us, the county, and I,
Minimal.
Because I think you got the
City of Grand.
but because it's being paid for, correct, I don't know that we could. I can look into it, I know what you're saying, I'm a little lost for words, I'm not sure that.
I think I will do that because if I was the city water, I have to pay that.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't get so why, because they polluted. Yeah, why did they get?
Because everything, well, hold on, don't give the airport so much credit, they didn't pay for it. The county, state, and federal funding, right? I'm not looking at it and saying that.
I'm not.
But then I guess you look up as part of a normal, if paying this is part of a normal hookup,
Right.
then the fees being collected would be just fine. I need to talk.
Then does that also, was the city of Grand Rapids? Or is it the county? Is it the county, there's enough, you guys were
Well,
all.
the city of Grand Rapids is 350. Township has 1,100. But you don't get the unit if you don't put it free.
So do you think the city of Grand Rapids funded their, is part of that process there? You thought you did the gas?
I guess I know. I know how that works.
But see, a lot of times, when you own, so Grand Rapids owns this, right? So they collect that fee, which directly pays for their operation to run that. different than the fee that we pay. So Grant have to make whole through this fund, guaranteed. But
So
there's
they,
no,
so it's a more legitimate.
yeah, because they're paying the contractor to go ahead and install this line. And then where the city benefits from is then they have users of the system, and then they can charge for their running the serve fee, their commodity fee, all of the things that go into running a water department. So I would really hesitate to compare our fee to the city of Grand Rapids. Would you agree? I don't know how much there, but
No, I would agree.
yeah, they're two different animals.
But the thing that.
They both, but the city of Grand Rapids will not allow a connection until our treasury says, yes, they paid the $1,100 fee to Cascade Township. Then they will allow
But
it.
this is a unique circumstance where this is the PFAS remediation project that.
But this is one of the costs of that remediation.
GRP people.
I don't care about, yeah, I care about Cascade.
Thank you.
I think volunteer. I don't agree. You want to, right?
I
We
mean,
can argue about it all day long, but I think we need what people.
But it is one of the legitimate costs.
I get.
Yeah.
And
Yep, we have the basic interest line, same comments from the general fund, that's going up about $30,000, I'm sure it's the phone numbers. And then we have a transfer in, transfers in should equal transfers out. So when we were talking about the general fund expenditures, we had a transfer out of $40,000, well, look at that, the special revenue fund, we got $40,000. Yeah. Something ticks and ties. Okay. Getting to expenditures of the general fund, non-general fund, also has personnel. Typically, it's in the fire and building inspection funds, new for this year, and I did check and see for 2026, we have the DDA fund that has staff. So not a big deal having one staff member paid out differently. We just have to go a couple things to update our system. So that's called our thing. In supplies.
So it's not
Oh, I don't know. Supplies, prior to the 24th, the fire fund, the fire fund still is receiving federal dollars passed to the state to, as a cost share of, turnout gear, make sure our firefighters are safe. Prior to, me coming on, fire would spend about $85,000 on the gear. They would receive $40,000 to $60,000 from the state, and they would take that revenue and smash it into the expense line, and it looked like we were spending $30,000 on fire turnout gear. The way to do it is to have an $85,000 expenditure budget and a $40,000 to $60,000 revenue line. So you can see both the revenue and expenditure instead of one number that was too small. So the category looks like it went up a lot. Again, just another accounting change, but at some point we'll get through all these for the next page system. Other services and charges and the transfer outlines, I am going to address those together because the other services and charges line is going up 31%, almost 1/3, going up from $3.5 million to 4.6. It is a big jump. And if you look at the transfer outline, it's dropping by about $1 million, 86%. So these lines are definitely, there's a relationship, it gets back to the cap costs. When Jay came in and we implemented the cap system, the charges that we were collecting from other funds were treated as a transfer out. So really that should be a direct charge for services. So we're now calling it an other service and charge. Then, we are collecting more dollars in the cost allocation plan. And part of it is because our new IT department, the building inspection fund, they used to pay a direct bill. Now, the IT department is gonna pay that bill, and that bill will be allocated not just to the building inspection fund and not just to fire, but to all the funds that benefit from the services.
Very logical.
Let's see, and, the sheriff contract, the annual contract is now budgeted about $880,000 is another service charge. Just want to point out the big drivers, like, yeah, this is a big number, what's the new lines? The sheriff contract is in there, and the, building inspection fund transfers 20% of the revenue that they receive for Cascade Township permits. They send it back to the general fund. And that counts as an expenditure in the building inspection fund. So the category hasn't changed, I believe it stays flat, or, sorry, the new category amount is 147,000, 125,000 of that is this 20% cut. And that number is not, that figure does not change, still there. Similar to the general fund, the capital outlay lines are directly from the capital improvement plan, CIP. That is a very large number for 2026 because it has $15 million. The $15 million project. And I'm not quite sure how I did it. There's an offsetting of the revenue. So we have a revenue and an expenditure of $15 million.
So, in regards to that, I'll start the conversation. So since this is what I got to do this discussion in regards to the project, the $15 million, which some trustees are more into what's happening than others, and also we don't have a true cost yet. So I think I made a suggestion to a few of you today that we take a look at that, and I talked with Laura, and I think at this time it would be appropriate to probably pull that $15 million out of the budget. And once it's time to actually look at the final project, the final design, and at the time we're able to bond, we then can do a budget amendment at that time to reflect true costs of the project. The only thing that I would ask is that we make sure that we keep enough in the capital outlay line item, because we did work with the DA in the purchase of the Berbers, and that we would have enough in there to pay that back. So if the project were to go south, we could still somehow get a bond or pull $2.3 million, $2.5 million out of the general fund or bond to pay back the DA. So that's what that.
I have a question. Is the intent that the DPA will be spent in the Sun Belt? This year, sets that intent to the DPA.
Yes, the DEA is fully on board with the project.
My problem with this is that previous boards, I did this somehow, where it wasn't put in budget or it wasn't put in a CIP, and then it was done at board meetings where not very many people knew the discussion being had, and the public wasn't fully aware of what was being spent by the township. And I think personally, I feel that this is much more transparent to put a dollar amount in the CIP, a dollar amount in the budget, so that if any resident in the township would look at the fiscal year 2026 budget and see, oh, looks like the DEA has a $15 million project. I'm going to figure out what this is about. They can start asking questions if they would like to. We can direct them then to the board meetings when we do have those discussions, or when those things are coming up with the DEA, and that they can be actively involved. I think it's a way of, I don't want to say hiding, but not fully being transparent, which is how I felt like the board did things previously. And I think we all lived here when projects like that came through, and then it was brought out to the public after the fact that, oh, there was a board meeting, they talked about spending $15 million.
The budget amendments were over, I mean, that kind of budget amendments were how we go by it. Like the budget didn't mean a lot. And we all kind of after the fact, this is like, so that's my personal problem with it, and I want that on record, and we can discuss this with the board and talk about what you want to do, but I
personally would rather be much more transparent with the public. My understanding from the CIP workshop was that the $15 million is a placeholder, that it is an amount the DDA could bond out for if the project were to cost that much in all-inclusive project, not just Castle Park, but all of the other things they plan on doing this year. And I feel like the right thing to do is to be transparent in our budget, keep it in the CIP. It is not to take it out, and it is not to wait till a board meeting that we have and we decide the DDA's already voted on it, the board to approve of bond for them. I don't.
Let me jump in here. Just, yeah, well, just to clarify, it doesn't change the CIP. The CIP was approved with the project in it, so we won't go back and affect the CIP. Well, we do, because that's just a planning document, but we're doing this just affecting the actual budget dollars. But
And my point is, if it's a plan for 2026, why are we taking it out of the budget? That's like saying you need a new fire truck and we're gonna take it out of the budget, so nobody knows the budget, and then bring the estimate to it, we're gonna approve it. And hopefully somebody looked at that board meeting agenda and knew what we were doing. I don't think it's right. But
The problem I see what you're saying, is that you want to be transparent out there. The problem is that we put it out there, and a lot of people ask questions like that. And there's no concrete plan in place that says, yes, we're putting in a sidewalk here and 3 lamp posts, and that costs $15 million. We don't have that plan budgeted to yet, because we don't have it yet. And until we do, I think this creates more confusion. Having it in there with no.
I don't think so.
I mean, that's fine, I know we won't ever,
I
already have
think it's being more transparent. This is the plan. Again, this is the DDA's plan, 2026. I think putting it in there and then we always, and then these, coming, I don't know.
once we know what the project is, and we know what the project costs, and we can show the residents, this is the project, that's what I think we.
And so if you were a resident that just wants to look at the budget and know where your dollars are going, and you don't see it, and you hear about it in 2027, or it's done, and you're like, I looked at the budget in 2026. Wow, they never mentioned once that they were gonna do this project. I personally would be upset. I would attribute that to the Taj Mahal that the previous board was putting in, that residents didn't know so much about until they were very deep in the plan.
My problem with allocating $15 million to your plan is that your designers, architects, whatever, are going to design something that costs $15 million for it, if it doesn't need to.
That's fair.
We might need to spend $10 million or $7 million or $12 million, whatever, and they will design to that ceiling.
But Rick, good point, very well put.
Well, there's pros and cons to both sides of this discussion. I won't call it an argument, it's a logical discussion. Being on one of the 2.5 terms, yes, you're absolutely right. The residents always question, how come you had a budget amendment of X millions of dollars, and how come we didn't know about it, and where did you get that money from? On the other hand, Scott's got some good points there too. But by having it in the budget, at least the residents will know, okay, we're doing some of it down there in that area, in DDA. As is today, we have residents that say, hey, what are you gonna do with the Tuffy property? So that's a question that it's easier for me to answer to a resident than to say, we amended the budget last month in the board meeting, but I really don't know where I got the money from.
Then it was out.
It was in, it was out, it was in, it was out. So I think for me, answering questions for a resident, it's easier to have it in the budget, like what's proposed here. Than it all of a sudden come along 4 months from now, 14 months from now, and say, well, we found some money. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Sue. We say 15 million, it's gonna cost 15 million. Is there a way, Jay, after the compromise here, where if we put 5 million in an asterisk, right? Oftentimes financial statements have footnotes, they have references, right? If we said 5 million asterisk, we can bond up to 15 million. It still informs the voters, but we don't know.
I don't know how you ask for some budget. But I don't know, there's only,
I like,
well, there's always.
what about?
But I want to say, I don't know that we can ask for the budget, because that's a document that. We have some statutory guidelines to meet with that. I think we could put a number in there to make sure that we memorialize the capital outlay in the capital project. But I think there could be something that could be passed along with the budget in the form of resolution by a board that would support the TDA's efforts to remediate and rehab the subdivision, purchase of reverse, other TDA, and support these activities, streetscape and other improvements.
And then,
I think we could follow that. We're not committing the funds at that point, but you're memorializing that the effort's gonna do it. And maybe we could put, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't do this. You could in there saying that the project could end up being up to a particular amount. You're not saying that you're gonna spend that amount, but I think we could probably craft a resolution that could be passed by the board. Right, for sure. It wouldn't be in the same vote. It would have to be separate, because the resolution really doesn't.
right, but if I'm looking at the minutes,
Correct.
when the budget was passed, I would see this was in there too, and I would see this when we're transparent about how you did the information.
Right.
Could we also include, and one of the, I don't know where it's supposed to appropriate, maybe what you're talking about. I'd like to ask, but give it up, practical municipal budget. But, so from being on DDA, I was talking to the people, reimbursing for the Berber, toughy redo, capital update, including, but not like just excavating boardwalk between the two parcels underneath the road, possible street, what do you call it, street changes?
Which is.
Yeah, that's not even skate, yeah, street.
Yeah, you can just talk about traffic,
Like
alternating traffic or road improvements.
Road
those types of
improvements or
things.
changes, like I think some where become like one way or it's two way, like.
What we would be doing in this resolution is almost memorializing what the bond language say, although.
Yes,
We won't,
exactly.
we won't have to vet all that, we'll have to vet the bond language legal, but we could put together a lot of the things, what this bond would.
So like, burying, putting utilities underground around the capital site, just rock, 200,000. And then like, it would also include, this has been the discussion of the DDA level, which you guys, which allows you to kind of DDA, no one watches. You would be familiar with it, but, you know, the stone house that we purchased on the inside right now is kind of, it's nice with sterile office building, we're gonna look to rent that out as usable space, the community usable space. Renovating the inside and making it more usable, so like outdoor, indoor, it's gonna need a remodel on the inside, the outside's adorable, but, and then also the old township hall. Needs a bunch of improvements that, like, so it's like, I understand the good point, Sue, to your point, if you say 15 million, kind of like the first round at the Tucky Costa, like there's a $10 million thing, right? Like you're spending $10 million on a number.
It's just how people's minds work.
But I would, we do work that way, rather than shoot. But the reality is there's so many other little things that add up that aren't, it's not just a public health site. So when you start listing it all out, and even just like redesigning a road, it's gonna have.
Yeah, it's much bigger.
So you're suggesting that we,
So I don't, I think there's a middle ground, and then also you don't want to be limited. I don't know, I mean, you're all making a really good point, I'm not quite sure what I was just trying to explain from the DDA perspective. And then personally, I think better to do it right, do it up front, make a huge impact, and then the trickle effect for decades to come that the village and the businesses and the residents are seeing what we can do now because we have the vision, we have the capability. You spend a bunch up front responsibly versus like, oh, we're gonna put it into, median and a park every day or now from Plainville. Here, like the traditional mentality is very short-term, short-sighted, projects, but like, let's just do it right and everyone can brag, like, I don't know, I think this isn't gonna be an annual, like, he's not gonna look at this project often, I think it should be done right.
Yeah, I don't know what finance is like. I do think that memorializing the support for overall improvements.
is there a way to word such a document that is, allows you to bond for what you need, Like the ones you've got for the bids or whatever.
Well, I don't wanna confuse the bonding process, with the resolution of support for the function. The bonding process is a very strict process that one of those, our bond council will walk us through. So I would really hate to even mention who. I don't wanna marry all these fathers. That's a slippery slope.
And that's where, you know, your point is correct. I don't want somebody to think, oh, I spent 15 million, but I think that, which is what people will think, they will, but the fact that I think we've been talking more and more and more about the overall big project versus just pieces of it. I don't know, and I feel that the engineering and the design firms that have been chosen to do the work, I think also there's never been a dollar amount they can spend on designing something.
No, your contract is very good.
Well, the 15 million for multiple projects, not
Exactly.
just that one project. So.
Is it one?
But it's also not that stuff too, so you're right, I don't really think we're all tricky. And we already have the design firm contracted, and the engineering firm. So that's where I'm saying, like, these dollar amounts have already been out there, I don't think by changing the budget to meet, like, it's, my opinion, feels like we're hiding stuff from public residents. I didn't think we're putting it out there, we spoke about it publicly, putting it in there and seeing what ends up happens.
Well, in other words, anyone who's doing a design to that, whichever sort of project, they know there's lots of costs and they'll take the whole.
Correct. And different. The other part of it too, is all of these estimates have to come to the board for final approval anyways. It's not like they're gonna start doing work. We're gonna be able to see them. So the Tuffy Castle Park Burger redo, that will come with the dollar amount. And then once the contract, the bids go out, it will be bid out, it will go through the bid process, it will come to the board, and the board will be able to say, no way, this is ridiculous, you know, we're up. We don't. And that's what we'll do with every project on the way. So it's not one.
How soon are we at the DDA? Like, I know we did the initial calculations of like rough estimates of conservative amount of bond out. That's reasonable. But how soon are we putting together that bond?
We can start drafting point to make sure we have, you know, all of our projects listed and also written in a way that gives us flexibility. So that if another TV project pops up, it's got an ability to utilize this fund. So, you know, municipal building improvements is the way that I would want to word it, because that allows us to improve any municipal building that we have without saying it has to be the stone house or it has to be the old township hall or her end, but district or that. Yeah, the current. So I would hate to corner ourselves particular sites, but overall improvement. So.
Thinking over those mediums and maybe the 28th Street medium by line or those.
So
That would be part of that too, right?
the annual mark is already picked up here. The one on 28th refresh account that's ours. Maintained it is a disaster. So we're looking at the price on our option.
You should not go to that Cascade sign up there, get off the express, right?
Like it's going back to the budget.
Go there. Yeah, I could have figured out when that 15 million was that.
So I guess, I mean, this is obviously a good discussion to have, but you know, it's when we put together the final itemized budget.
If you want to have direction on that right now, or,
That would be fantastic. So whether it's a placeholder of a number and a resolution below,
Laura, do you have any thoughts or? There's pros and cons to all of it, right? So.
My,
No, I was just gonna say,
my recommendation or my professional, the way I would normally do things is that a $15 million project, up to $15 million project, showed up in CIP. The board declared their intent, the DDA declared their intent, that 15 million goes into the budget as it is now, is a $15 million bond, $15 expenditure as a placeholder. And as the project develops, that's when you either refine the budget or say, the budget will cover this. And in terms of a contractor saying, ooh, $15 million, I can spend that. Well, Eric and Jade and all kinds of folks are overseeing these design firms. And those firms may come back with, you know, here's the design, and here's a high, medium, or low dollar of that, and the board directs all that. There'd never be a point of, well, somebody's gonna spend a lot of money, because they say a random number.
How is it worded too, or how will it be worded? Some people might think it's just for the puppy castle.
Village reimagined,
Oh.
one village project. And I'm here that the board's pleasure, you don't like a $15 million ribbon where expenditure, but asterisk kind of troubled me. I suppose I wasn't sure I did every word, yes and A.
Fair enough. It's the
I
first
don't
number.
think they had an option.
Go ahead, John.
I agree with Laura on many points, including the, I guess, oversight that this board has. And Eric, there was relatively new, where we never had an engineer in house before. I'm real comfortable with the board's recommendation. That we leave it in there, if you want to put some type of language in there, that's fine too. With this board and the staff that we've got, I don't think that any potential contract is going to walk away with $15 million for your company. In the past, you bet your sweet potato. But I don't think that's likely. A sweet fifty, that's my money.
Oh.
Thank you.
I agree with John. Because it, those projects will have enough oversight by staff and by the board that. Okay, whatever.
But as Jack Lewis used to say, one vote, one.
I agree. I do too. I just also, because I recognize the thought process behind it and also, getting started with putting the number of 15 on there. Look, I love. But
You have the EDA, the board, this board, you got in-house, not likely set of experts, student staff.
and I'm kind of used to resident firing stupid and obnoxious questions up, so honestly, I'm okay with that.
Well, I think the guy that came in with the $10 million of park, he's not here anymore. So that's on that. So we can move forward.
Good point.
Yeah, so it's like a test.
It does, yeah.
So I guess the question, because I don't want to see the budget. This could go a couple different ways, but we have for the budget, that's for the budget. Would it help if, reading the room right, you know, obviously, but help to better define what that $15 million is for, whether it's in the form of a resolution, or as the area,
I think so.
something that could be presented in support of the budget that could then be looked at and say, this is the maximum that we go to, and here's all of that would include in this $15 million.
Yeah.
Itemize the $15 million, but
I'll say that. Here's our goal, like, you know, we have a budget, so right now, we're looking at take the $59,000 out, we have a budget that is gonna drop a lot of things. And really, that's all, right? Our goal was to buy a fire truck last year, well, we met that goal, we meant to go buy some trucks, do that. We could be more specific with our intent on that, and getting the form of narrative that will support.
I think that it go back to the strategic plan and the master that talks about the village redesign project in those, because those were resident driven, were based on feedback from residents, what they wanted to see. The other thing I think that needs to specify in it is where the funds are coming from. It's coming from the DDA.
Correct.
It's not coming from our general fund. I think that's another huge piece of it that residents need to understand. It's not general fund dollars that is funding this. This is a bond that the DDA went out for.
That's right, I don't think it's research,
But maybe the last 7 or 8 of them that have been dedicated, at least, I don't know, about single space, page and like 12 page letter has been on, and so I'm pretty comfortable with that. But when they have the same question, then I'll put it in that.
You know, what's the interesting part too, we did create the project page on our website
Yeah.
a year ago to try and have a landing spot where people go. And this would be a natural progression for us to talk about the approved budget, to do the improvements in the DDA, and also just talk in there in addition to whatever area.
With the, facade improvements, the grant match that you look at, is that something that could be part of this bond or no? Good to know.
The repayment of the $2.1 million to support their efforts to fund the budgets, support the grant. So, in a way,
But
like
not.
that bonding is gonna pay that back. You can't fund private, improvements on.
Right.
That's usually good shady pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I think we're never gonna- For next to that. Your point. Okay.
So I guess, real quickly, I mean, that's a big number, that keep in or keep out, so.
Well,
I'm okay with the additional, that's below.
yeah,
Okay.
I would,
So,
yeah, to the
Not,
extent
not fully, I might fully putting it out there on each part. but-
categories, yeah.
What it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, what it includes, what it
Could
includes,
include,
what it
include,
includes.
very long, like that.
Include shall.
Definitely. Manage. If we turn to page 7, we are on next steps, which is the wrapping up of this document. The next steps, we will update numbers as the board directed in this meeting. I'm not quite sure I heard any numbers, but we're here to update them. I have a little bit of work to do on projecting how this year is gonna end up, it's part of the budget yesterday. Your next,
I think our salary, we have to, that's not gonna put that down, but I think that there could be some topics that we more that we're gonna talk about or suggestions, we went through what's making up the year.
yeah,
But I think we need to get, you know, the 15 conversation, anyone else is there that,
open it up.
globally, that we look at this year's budget or our, or
Yeah, let's open it up to the board about.
I would like to see us find a way to put in the budget a, placeholder perhaps for, setting aside funds for future building needs for fire department. I think that in future, and I'm not saying to happen next year, but I think we all know at some point in the future, we're gonna need a building organization. Community, and if we're able to go to the voters in 10, 15, 20 years, however long it is, and say, we need a village building fire station, but oh, by the way, we saved up this much money already. I think that will go a long way to show that, you know, we have the forward thinking. Well, I'd like to see something, with respect to that, and then the other item.
I'm sorry, just next.
Yeah.
You're looking at it about that.
Yeah, I've got. On October 22nd, I do a long strategic plan about like future forecasting. We discussed that, and I gave kind of some timelines of what we're seeing and when it would be appropriate. And it's gonna be around that 2033 next village opportunity where it would be appropriate based on our call growth right now. We can handle everything that is throwing at us for CY. But seeing that growth, we're seeing 5% growth overall, but 15% that lower southwest corner, that's called, good right now. We're good, we don't need it right now. But we'll 100% address the strategic plan, but my recommendation before you go to like a full study that back me up, that around that 2033 mark. It's coming. It took us 5 years. It took us 5 years to build stage one, and now we've been like 100% approval. So if we kind of start planting seeds now, it would make sense.
Yeah, Scott, we're on target with CIP.
I just, CIP plan, yeah.
Yes, that's good point.
And then
We
we
do have that in CIP now.
the other item I was gonna mention, is I heard staff make mention of this, and on staff, and I've heard other people mention it. It's extremely difficult sometimes for the township to get access to this space because there's so many other events competing for that time. There's been comments before that maybe we need another meeting space. There's been discussion that grounds needs a better space. I know we have a facilities strategic plan kind of coming in the future. But I think it might make sense to start setting aside some funds for this potential, future acquisition or building project that creates those spaces that ultimately we may have a report they such as like maybe the acquisition of the administration building. It's no secret that the township board, you know, task force talked about the township trying to acquire that property for use. And maybe that's, you know, maybe we should be planning in advance for that and trying to save the for that's something exciting.
Not saving money for future.
Yeah.
Both of your points are very good. You do have those in CIP already.
Good. But in the budget.
Yeah, in the budget too, we also have $1.5 million this year. I'm assuming we're gonna have allocated for next year too. Out of the IRF fund for capital outlay. That's a fund that had over $3 million. That one of the capital decided to set aside that last year. I know a lot of it was supposed to go towards farmland preservation, and other park improvements, but there's nothing that defines where that 1.5 can be spent, but it is allocated to capital outlay.
The problem with the house was it's a property maker salary, usually down in the building. There was no way to act quickly on it because we didn't have the money sitting in any. Like set aside to do that would be the purpose of. So we did that starting last year, we put it aside so that we would have money built up over time. So if something were to come up, we could do fairly quickly.
Yeah, I wonder that, I don't know, we like that people about it through the water. Substance, I thought I give that too was be able to pay for,
Essential acquisition.
well, expansion system. But if they got up to rather than the same with stuff.
Now, yeah, that is different, that is totally different, that's a,
It's not from water and sewer connections, it's very that fund that lot of water.
maybe the. I don't know the fee
Can
structure.
I jump in?
Yeah.
So when I first got here, that I thought misunderstood, didn't fund it. So when I was- So, I worked with at the time, we had run that grant with accounting services before I got here. I also worked with attorney. There's no defined use for the IRS fund. It is a fund that you can use for any sort of infrastructure. So all of the above. Yeah. So that was a good question that I had when I got here. And there's still, even over and above that $1.5 million, there's still plenty of money up to other improvements in structure.
I have some constant. Good time, no, probably not, but it's not, I mean, if other people have comments or questions. then
Yeah,
we-
so there's a timeline out of the memo, we can push that memo back on October 8th. This week, we'll call hearing that next year, so if you can push this back one more meeting. We'll go with everything that I believe.
Or if we have another work session.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Wednesday.
Yeah, we can do next Wednesday, another day that.
That's what I'm saying, and that will be a really great comments, because I have to be quick in 2 minutes, but if other people have, I don't want to cut short if we need to have another. Anybody else have anybody? No, as long as you gotta be on the right side.
So here's what, can I make a suggestion on the fly, that we schedule another work session, or if we need to have the department there, I'll work with that, see if they, either or not. We wanted to schedule it for next week, if people were open to that, we can do that, and at that point, we will actually have an itemized budget that's out for you to review for that, and then we can have some further discussion on whatever. And globally, and then also give it some.
I think that's, yeah, I like.
For people,
Any day but Wednesday works.
Tuesday.
And there are we have anyway, so.
Tuesday works. I have Tuesday, Scott.
Oh. It'll be tight, right?
Hey, keep your crowd.
You're going to order by this Friday. Okay, do some work session on here.
So, doesn't have to be Friday. Like, you can make.
Oh, make it, yeah. Yeah, I thought you meant like.
Just let it go.
It was so exciting.
We're just here.